Guys, you're all very welcome to Cancel This Podcast, episode number 4. Thank you for being here on a sunny day. I'm talking today to a good friend of mine, the comedian, the philosopher, and some people say a bit of a prophet, because he's predicted things a long time ago. Mr. Steve Hughes.
I didn't predict them. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
No worries.
Yeah. Now, Steve, you've been in Ireland loads of times. You even used to live here in the 80s, 90s?
No, 1999 I moved
1999. Is it? And
16th of April, the day of the cosmic comedian.
The day of the cosmic comedian. What does that mean now?
It's in astrology. 16th of April is I don't know what it means, but that's what it is in astrology, the day of the cosmic comedian. I'm born on the 12th of November, the day of sensual charisma.
It's quite evident, really.
Yeah. The rest of the world hasn't caught on yet, but
but internally. So you've been in Ireland for ages. Like, you've been coming and going. You lived here for a while in Ballinasloe, I believe. And has it changed over the years since 1999?
That usually gets a laugh from Irish people. Ballinasloe.
So has it changed, and if so, how?
Oh yeah, well, it's changed. One, when I first landed here, the airport was a shed in 1999, and now it's probably the second biggest thing in Europe after Schiphol. Dublin's ugly because they put those wobbly things in for bike lanes. But mind you, we've got them in Australia too. Everyone's getting some form of tyranny with bike riders.
So that's it. We've got a bigger airport, and we have bicycle lanes. That's it.
And that's why I get called a philosopher, because of my in-depth analysis on situations.
Why did you live here originally, and would you live here again? And if yes, why? And if no, why?
Why did I live here originally? Because I was in Australia and I wanted to come to England to do comedy, but I was living with an Irish guy in Sydney, and his visa ran out, so we had to move back to Ireland. And then about a week before he left, he went, "You wanted to go to Europe and do comedy?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "You got an English passport?" I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Just come with me. I got a place you can stay." And I went, that's a damn good idea. He didn't tell me that he lived in Ballinasloe at that point. No. He'd been travelling for years, and his parents we had to go back to stay with his parents for a bit. And his father was a banker, and he lived in Ballinasloe, and so we ended up in Ballinasloe, which was interesting. I actually did a gig there at Bold Biddies, and we got very drunk. And then I ended up staying out there, but that was a little, it was better than being in Australia to start a comedy career, but it was a difficult challenge thinking, right, now I'm here in Ballinasloe, what do I do next? But because I was in heavy metal bands, I went to Bruxelles, that pub where is that, up near St Stephen's Green, and then I met the guys from Primordial, which is probably now the biggest metal band in Ireland, and because they'd known the bands that I used to be in, they went, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I've come to do comedy," and then they said, "Do you want to move into our flat in Dublin?" So I was like, "Yes, I do." And then I used to go across to the UK and do open spots and realised that this is not working, because England was too difficult to be in, because I'd get there and I'd ring up to do open spots, and they'd go, "Do you have any, spots to do open spot comedy?" And they'd be like, "Yeah, in August." And I'd be like, "But it's, February," because it was so packed. And then I suddenly realised, well, why don't I just stay in Ireland? Because then guys started to offer me work because it's smaller. And then the guy said, "Do you want to come to Kilkenny, do this?" And then I got paired up with Glenn Wool, the Canadian comic who we did a Dublin comedy festival together. And then he went, "I've got a spare room in a place in London," and that's how so I lived here for about a year, and that's how I could finally jump and get to England without having just been in London with no cash, ringing up gigs, trying to get 5-minute spots. So it just worked out better. And plus my first gigs were in, the International, and they gave me 10 quid. My first gig, so I thought, well, let's stay here. Ireland seems to be cool.
You obviously didn't need much to live on at the time.
No. I'm not living in the couch at the Alan from Primordial's house. And then, then I ended up in the UK, and then I just ended up coming, and then I made friends with all those guys, because and ended up knowing you, and then just, of course, toured Ireland and kept coming back to Ireland, and since then I've been in Ireland. So would I stay here? Yeah, I would. I like Ireland, because I'm from the continent of Australia, and I like small countries, I've realised. I like countries that I can drive up the other end of today And it's because it's just, it gives you a sense of like everybody knows one another somehow, which is kind of cool. Because I think in the future, if anything goes desperate, at least, we were talking about this yesterday, at least you've got a long history. Some from Australia, which is a colonist country, so we don't have any history. We don't have any, the Aboriginal people have history, but we don't have any history. So I remember once I was in Sweden listening backstage, and I was watching all the Swedish comics, and I thought to myself, they're all Swedish guys, they've got Swedish parents, grandparents, so forth. They live in Sweden. They can see themselves as Swedish, but I'm just a white guy in a black man's country in Asia. Right? You don't have that thing, so that's why I like it. So you've got a proper history, you're here, and then also you've got 800 years of the oppression history, which I think coming up to the future may aid you in a collective psyche to go, well, we're not taking shit. But I think Australians are quite conditioned to be under the thumb of prison guards because they've got a kind of, we disrespect authority, but we're kind of programmed to do what we're told. So, and plus it's a huge country where they could just put camps in the middle of the desert and no one would know what's going on. It's a creepy place, you know. At least in Ireland, I thought, you know, eventually the guards might swap back onto your side here because you could basically go, well, you better be on our side, because we know where you fucking live. You know, my cousin knows your dad who knows you, right? So I kind of like that. I think maybe this would be a good place.
That could be a Tourism Ireland slogan. Ireland, good place for the apocalypse. The guards can't be too bad because we know your cousin.
Yeah. The guards can't be on their side for too long because we know where they fucking live.
Well, you know, I started comedy 2007, and after about a year or so, I was looking at comedians online, and you were doing material that I hadn't seen anyone alive do. George Carlin, Bill Hicks did stuff, but you were talking about real issues, which for me really inspired me to try and talk about real subjects, which mean I died on my ass a lot. So you owe me an apology. There's a lot of people in Ireland who've just stared at me blankly going, who the fuck is this twat? And so apology accepted.
You can thank me later.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's that path. See, young comedians, they used to like those Bill Hicksy kind of comedians. But where they made the mistake was they used to think that, he's an offensive comedian, right? And so I never found it's not offensive. It's got a point, right? It's just hardcore. But so the young guys that didn't quite get it, they go out there and they try to be offensive, but that never works. Trying to be offensive, you know, either just do provocative comedy and it works, or because trying to be offensive is first thing you're supposed to be doing is trying to make people laugh. For a comedian, there you go. It's a foundational level. Whether or not they offended is a moot point. That's a subjective experience. But when these young fellas tried to... See, Bill Hicks was graphic, and like we were doing some of his dark poetry last night in the car. If you ever listened to Bill Hicks, it was so graphic and full on. Because some of that dark poetry he used to do about politicians and all that, and Rush Limbaugh. You know Rush Limbaugh? Right-wing American conservative. He's passed away now. I used to disagree with him in my 20s, and now I agree with everything the guy says. And he used to have... Bill Hicks was against Rush Limbaugh, of course, and he had this graphic bit about him being doesn't he look like a fat gay guy who would be naked in a bathtub while other men peed on him, right? Right, and then all Bush and Quayle and that come out, and Barbara Bush. I won't describe it, but it's graphic, and people would think, why is he doing this? You know, why does he have to be so ugly and rude? And I never thought because he's trying to get across to you that your reaction to this graphic black poetry, don't you understand? You should be more offended about the people I'm talking about. Yes. They commit wars and genocide and tax you and do this and put people who are innocent in prison. You're acclimatised to them and what they do. But now I'm expressing what they're really like in a graphic black way, and you're going, this is a bit full on. No, this is not full on. They're full on. I'm trying to get across to you how full on they are by explaining to you in this black graphic way that they're basically demon people. You know, so I don't know if that answers your question.
Just a separate question. Bill Hicks, he died very young, 33, I think.
Christ age.
Yeah. Do you reckon there was something in that? Like the conspiracy is he's taken out. Another conspiracy is that he's still alive and he's...
Yeah, Alex Jones.
he is Alex Jones.
That was the king of the dumb conspiracies, wasn't
Just because he's got
Bill
like a birthmark on the same
Bill
spot.
Hicks has come back as Alex Jones.
And the other one is that, so maybe it was an energetic attack on him and he died. Because it was kind of strange. He was just taken off
Yeah, I know. It's who knows. Their answer's no. I don't know the answer to. Who knows whether he's just, because he could have got sick because he was, he approached it with pure anger.
But he also read A Course in Miracles, the book about Christ. So he had the anger, but you could see that there was love behind it. He was like, I'm angry with the world, but ultimately I'm not attached to the outcome.
Well, I know what you're saying. 'Cause a lot of his comedy had that spiritual bent, which a lot of even the provocative guys, Carlin really didn't have it. He had that spiritual bent through the mushrooms and through the religious texts, the Course in Miracles. There was always that spiritual evolution going on with his way he's talking, his jokes and stuff. There was always that sort of, we've got to evolve beyond this human ape-like bit. Carlin wasn't particularly like that. He just, he attacked religion wholeheartedly. But I think, Hicks is a strangely forgotten legend now.
Yeah, last 10 years he's just faded. Less and less people mention him.
Yeah.
And what's your spiritual belief or religious practice, or what's your deal? You grew up a Catholic in Australia?
No. I had no religion. I think my parents went to church when they started to have affairs.
Just to get away from each other. Is it?
I don't know if they were having affairs, but for some reason, the next minute we were going to church. And I'm like, well, what do you go to church for? And I tell you, I was not impressed with church at all. I found it utterly boring, and I used to steal money from that thing they collect. And buy sweets. And I thought, why do I have to come here Sunday? I've only got 2 days off, or I have to go back to that hellish school. I just want to ride bikes. And I wasn't particularly into it. And my parents, then they just stopped it. I was never enforced with any kind of religion. But then in my 20s, I started to get into... I met this woman, a drama teacher. That's when I began comedy, and I ended up going out with her. Because I was in bands, and then I went and did improvisational courses so I could learn to stand on stage without a drum kit. I ended up going out with a teacher. And she... Because I'd just come from the western suburbs, really, living with guys from the western suburbs, working class guys, and so she was a different person from the rich side of town, and she ran her own business, and so she introduced me to shamanism, like Carlos Castaneda books, and self-help stuff at the time. So I was doing went and saw Anthony Robbins and Bob Proctor's. And
well, you saw them live?
Yeah.
You must have been rich.
No, I actually started to read all these books. That's how you usually get into spirituality if you don't come in through religion or something. You usually come in through self-help. Right? So I'm reading all these books because I want my bands to somehow get out of that continent that's away from everywhere in the world. How am I going to succeed when I'm in Australia, right? So I was doing everything in my efforts. I'm reading all those books, The Magic of Thinking Big, Think and Grow Rich.
I read them.
Yeah. Napoleon Hill and Psycho-Cybernetics, Maxwell Maltz, and then Carlos Castaneda books she put me onto, and then I was doing Anthony Robbins courses. I'll tell you how I did that. I wasn't rich, but they started to give me ideas where you could just... I went down to the Anthony Robbins, where they found it, where they put it on, and just went in and said, is there any way I could... Do you need anyone to do sort of work for you for free, and then maybe you get the course cheaper or something? And they went, logistics. I was just a yobbo drummer. I didn't even know what logistics meant then. I just went, oh yeah, I guess, logistics. And then they went, oh, we do the firewalk, so do you want to come down? If you build the fires and do that, you do work on those the first night, you can do the rest of the course for like $200 or something. I went, all right.
So you manifested it before you actually got the self-help. So you learned what you needed to get in there before you get it.
Yeah. I just got off my ass and got it done, which is I was already doing anyway, because I'd made metal bands in Australia, so you have to get off your ass and get things done if you want to play in bands. So then I was reading those books, Maxwell Maltz, it's all self-help. But it gave me a lot of information that you wondered why they didn't teach you at school, when there's a whole chapter on the subconscious mind and telling you that perhaps these patterns that are in you manifest, and this is running most of the show and all this kind of... You sit there reading it going, no one thought to mention this at school. That perhaps there's a major part of my psyche that's manifesting everything, and then I thought, well, I'll just expand because I just grew up in the western suburbs in Australia with a bunch of guys who none of us thought to go to university or do anything, and just become mechanics and work in warehouses and stuff. And then I started to read. I just thought I'd read anything. So I read the Course in Miracles, but not the...
Did you finish it?
No, because I didn't read the whole thing. I only read the Marianne Williamson.
Did you do the meditations?
I used to do some. I used to meditate in the 90s, yeah.
Oh, good for you. I am Christ.
I don't know about
I
that
am
one.
love.
but
That's what they
used
did.
to-
It was I am Christ, I am love. Because
Is it?
I always thought you were an atheist.
Oh, no, I was never an atheist, but I was never, Christians can freak me out. Full-on monotheistic religions, it's because of course then I end up in conspiracy theory world, and then they talk about where these come from and stuff too.
And Alex Jones became your god.
I was never into Alex Jones. He was too full-on. Come on, this guy's got to be up to no good. Look at him, he's a mental case. But then I started to read Buddhism, of course. They call Earth samsara, right? So the wheel of suffering, right? So that's why they want to become enlightened, so that they can break away from their old karma, release and fall into non-dualism, which is what they'll say is the groundless being of existence. So really what you are is you're not the personality or the program or the trauma or ingrained or the subconscious patterns or even the karmic patterns that you've collected through time. The real basis of your existence is the groundless being that where all physical manifest is coming from. So you could call it God, really. Buddhists won't call it God, but it's groundless being, right? But of course they'll talk about here's where the mind fuck is that then samsara, which is this dimension, is in duality. So subjective, objective, up, down, black, white, hot, cold, male, female. They're the two dualisms, right? That you'll now have to live in, subjective, objective, right? And so they want to become enlightened so they can override that dualism, because they call it the wheel of suffering, because it has to, because all through natural law, if you're going to have joy, then you have to have misery. If you have happiness, you have to have misery. You can have pain, you have to have non-pain. So that's why they call it suffering, because why? Because you can never just go through here without suffering, because it's a natural law. Because they're in dualism. So their thing is to sit there and meditate for so long and get rid of or burn all their ancient karma and burn all the stuff and hopefully... But you can't wake up. They say, oh, let's wake up to it. But they go, well, you can't wake up to non-dualism because you can't become non-dual because you can't become what you already are.
So they're wasting their time.
No. Because but see, it's because it's not something to be reached. It's the personality and the programming, the ego that needs to fall away. So you can't reach anything. So in one sense, they'll say to chase enlightenment, to become spiritually like I'm on a spiritual journey. They go, that's pointless, because you're already saying that you're a separate being from God. By saying that I've got to improve myself, right? They go, well, there's no point to doing that because you're already God, groundless being. So you go, I'm going to try to become enlightened. They go, well, that doesn't work because that's a motivation from the ego and the personality. It's all a mind fuck. It's difficult as hell for the mind to try and comprehend, because the mind wants to put it into a concept, and they'll go, well, it can't conceptualize. That's why some people won't even use the word God, because they go, you can't give a name to the unnameable. Because even when you call it God, you've conceptualized it down into a word so that your conscious mind can turn it into a concept. In fact, I was reading an Adyashanti book on non-dualism called Emptiness Dancing, and I left it on a train. So I went back to this bookshop in London called Watkins, which is a massive esoteric bookshop. And I just walked in, there was a red book, just said all there is on it. And for some reason, I just went, what's this? And it was that Tony Parsons guy. He's he's funny, man. Because basically, he just sits there and you've got to pay to go and watch him. But then people go, oh, I've come along, could you teach me something today? He's like, no. and then that's the end of his question. I hope you haven't come here for anything today. Why? There's nothing to give. Right, it's kind of he's either worked out the best way to just get people's money and give them fuck all, right? Or he's super enlightened. And I was talking to you about, there's another guy I used to watch who was into non-dualism. Can't remember his name, but he was an ex-cocaine addict. Then he worked in shelters with other cocaine addicts, and then he had... Because some of these people just say it just kind of falls on them one day. Like you don't even have to sit in a monastery for 20 years. Some people have just had experiences. Just bang, it's happened. Like the self fell away and they became sort of... It's a one to describe, because when you go, I got enlightened, they'll go, well, no, you haven't, because the I is the thing that falls away. Right, so, but that guy who was the ex-cocaine addict, he had a great saying. He used to go, he's talking about the mind. He goes, the problem with the mind is, he goes, the mind has an agenda. He goes, the problem is that you're not in it. And his other one was, he goes, you know when you're sitting in the cinema and someone sits down in front of you and they've got a big hair and a big head and they're taller than you and they block the screen? People go, yeah. He goes, that's you. You're blocking everything. You're the one that blocks everything. You know.
You sent me a video during the tyrannical COVID times at the Ashanti. It's a small meditation, like a 10-minute one.
Oh, that's right. I sent you meditation.
But I started listening to it along with like other ones, Muji, my own meditation. But I was waking up at like 4 a.m. because I was surrounded by, good people, but I saw things differently than they did. So I had to sort of stay strong within myself because I just go along with it. What do you just it's just a thing. It's just, and I was like, no, hang on a second. So I was waking up at 4 and I was meditating. And then I remember asking you, did you do that meditation? You went, nah, I just decided to pass it on to you. Oh, I don't like meditation. It's too difficult. So you don't actually... I was doing like 2 hours a day back then. I had to, because the world had gone crazy. I had to do it for sanity.
I was out in my mask, social distancing.
Yeah, queuing up for the boosters. Have you created the next booster yet?
Queuing up for me booster.
So how did you know it was bullshit? I know that you know it was bullshit, but how did you know, and when did you know? Like straight away, or did it take you time?
When they brought in the lockdown?
Yeah, did you do a bit of the mass? Did you do a few weeks of it?
No, of course not. I read in 2007, which was apparently, this is what it was, back in the day when you could find more provocative stuff on the internet before they started to shut it all down. I can't remember if I found on the internet. It was in Australia. It was apparently written by the head of the Church of Satan, I would call it, in Australia, who was on his deathbed was making this written confession about how much he'd worked with Australian politicians. And he was talking about multiculturalism and how it's going to affect the entire world and it's going to be used to undermine the entire world except Japan. But he never mentioned why Japan won't be targeted for multiculturalism, which bummed me out. I wanted to know. And he said that Australia is going to be under a mass vaccination program in the future. And he never said when or why. And plus, without even that, all the 25 years of thousands of conspiracy theory books, no one no Chinese guy eats a dodgy bat for lunch and catches some weird thing, and then 3 weeks later they just shut the world and every country agrees. Like, that straight away tells you that all your governments have sold out to some unelected body that's on a global level because they've all agreed. No one just all agrees. There was a few African countries that didn't, and then their leaders seem to have not be here anymore.
Yeah, they just disappeared.
Right.
Yeah,
and then
they must have got COVID or something.
And then to sit there and suddenly, you put this thing on and you've all got locked up. And plus the fact that they never suggest anything healthy straight away, do they? It's always, none of them said, right, well, don't eat this and don't eat that, and do this and maybe stay. It was all just stay indoors. Everything was negative life. Everything was anti-life. Don't go in the sun, don't exercise, we'll shut all the alternative doctors down, everything to stay inside. And is there anything you suggest we should do that's healthy? No.
If it's anti-life...
By the way, McDonald's is still open, the Bottle-O's are still open, and KFC is still open. And secondly, then I've been, am I, 57 years old, so I've been sitting in this earth for that long, watching these with their ads go, can you send us money for cancer cures? We've got tens of thousands of experts around the world working tirelessly to find the cure for cancer, and if you could send us a few dollars each month. And I'm sitting there going, you've been telling me this for 50 years and you've come up with nothing.
I want my money back.
Nothing, right? And then suddenly a Chinese guy eats a bat and gets a coronavirus that you never heard of in about 8 months. We've got this thing. We whipped it up, and by the way, it's in all countries in the world now. How'd you ship it out? Where'd you manufacture all this and get it on boats and ship it out? And it doesn't make any logistical sense whatsoever.
Well, you are the logistical expert.
It was yeah, yeah, exactly. Once I found out what the word meant, and then what was it? It's just. Well, I looked at it like this too. So all of a sudden, so you could get on a plane these days, and then I was on a plane once, and I was eating some peanuts. And then they said, you can't eat the peanuts on the plane because the woman at the back's got a peanut allergy. Right, so this has got to do with what? These are my little things. Because now everything that's a minority gets focused on as the priority these days. And they use the word minority in the sense of either immigrants or gays or that, right? And now everyone's conditioned to think that anyone that's in a minority is actually having a bad time. Now my point being is that one woman who's allergic to a peanut on a plane is a minority, but now the whole plane has to not have peanuts because of this. This is the world we're living in now, because it's one woman. But secondly, from that, what my point being is that, so what you're pointing out here is that some people can't eat peanuts. Yeah. Right, so you want to protect us, but so you're saying that people are different, people's bodies react differently to things, that's what they'd be saying. Yeah, so we're going to make sure that her body doesn't react negatively, so we all can't have peanuts because people are different. But apparently we've got this vaccine which we should all take. But apparently some people can't even have a peanut. But we invented this thing for a monkey bat virus, and all take it. But how do you know that we can't have not everyone can even have a peanut. Yeah, but we can all have this. What is it? Oh,
Don't worry about it.
And I was like, are you out of your mind? Plus, I wouldn't even use, I used to, knew people who used Valium to either travel or come down off hangovers or drug hangovers, and I would never do that. I always used to think if you have to inflict this upon yourself, you have to deal with it, right? And people would party on pharmaceutical drugs. I'd never party on pharmaceutical drugs. I don't want anything to do with pharmaceuticals. I'd have to have a ripping headache to even get into the Nurofen. You know what I mean? So I ended up in psych med world when I had that adrenal fatigue breakdown against my better judgment, but with such severe depression, I tried it, and that's maybe I had to go through that hell to understand that I was right. Because
it's the duality. You can't be happy without the suffering.
Believe me, when they locked me in a psych ward for one night, and I was sitting in there going, I had a 50-date sold-out tour 3 weeks ago and a hot South African girlfriend. Now I've got no girlfriend and no tour, and I'm in a psych ward. How did that go from that? Thank God I was only in there for 24 hours. They could hold you against your will, right? So, and then I ended up on these psych meds, and it's just so easy to get off, Steve. You just taper them down over 2 weeks, and then bingo, you're off. No, you're not. So I don't trust these. Plus, I've read enough conspiracy theory books to know that to know that the Rockefeller, all that stuff. It's surface level conspiracy theory. But they took over medicine, didn't they? They've infected every area of our life. It was obviously to take over medicine. They got rid of homeopathy and everything in the States. And
what's the intention? Is it just for profit, or is it? How can you gain by making
control.
people less well?
I don't think it's for profit, because they print their own money. I mean, that's what I find funny when people go, it's just follow the money. Well, you don't have to follow them. It's not for money. They can start wars. They don't need any cash. They print cash. So there's got to be other agendas beyond money. So depopulation would be one. Keeping everybody sick. I mean, I think money's a benefit. Money, I think you can follow the money in the sense that it ends up good for people who are doctors or reps for drug companies. They're just the normal level humans who are benefiting off the cash, right? So we have our little slave group who we pay the cash to do our devious things, but I don't think these people need money. What are you talking about there? This is super elite. They've had cash since thousands of years.
Right, so it's not money, so they're doing it for another purpose.
Well, depopulation, I think, sick people.
Anti-life is what
It's
you said
anti-life.
earlier. Anti-life. So it's like they're against life. So
Well, it seems to me they're against a natural state of affairs with AI and. Where did all these humans? How did they live before medicine was around?
Dandelions.
It's funny how they use these names. They call, if you don't want to use the mainstream medicine, they call it alternative medicine, don't they? Like it's alternative to what? It's like when they give you these drugs and they go, there's side effects. That was always funny. Well, it's not a side effect, is it? It's an effect. Like, what's this side effect? It's like a potato salad. Like, I'll have the heart failure, but just on the side, just. And then, I mean, I must give him some credit, because when I went on those psych meds for a bit, God, what an idiot thing to do, right? But I said, give me a look at the side effects. You pull this thing out, it's like a scroll, and then the first one was suicidal ideation. I mean, what kind? That's such a piss take. You got to like a piss taker, don't you? And if you're going to give drugs that are apparently stopping your depression, and the first one is
kill yourself.
You might want to kill yourself. which you already want to do, right? Which is the issue. And then, of course, sometimes they... Plus, I love the way they go, it might give you tinnitus. Tinnitus could make someone without depression want to kill themselves. If you get bad enough tinnitus, You don't want to add that on the top of suicidal depression. Like, oh, it's just a little side effect. What? No. So what a bunch of mental cases. So it's just, I just don't trust.
So the meds didn't.
Maybe I'm an evolved soul. I sometimes think that. I came back and went, oh no, I've got some karma to work out, obviously, but because even when I was young, I just went, no, this is all wrong. I was at school going, what do you want me to do? Leave here and then work and then you'll give me $4 an hour or something? Is my life worth $4 an hour? I thought, okay. And then what at the end? I'm supposed to marry some chick and then we'll do this and then I'll retire at 65 and then and that's it, is it? So I'm sitting here on this planet in the universe and this is it. I think something is going astray here. That's why I had to be an artist. I had to do something that involved creativity, and so I've got to function and make money and get a job. I can't. I mean, God bless people who can do it. Get up every day and go to work. Otherwise, I wouldn't have roads to ride on, and shops because I can't. I fucking can't. I did it. I mean, I've had jobs, but I always have to have ones like I'm in a warehouse where I'm down the back where I just got to sit on a forklift and there's no one around and,
Depression, Steve. You got out of it. How did you get out of it? Obviously, it wasn't the meds.
No, I had to get off the meds. That was an extra 2 or 3 years trying to get off those things.
Fuck.
I got off them with supplements. After all the stuff, I even tried the ayahuasca and everything, but none of that worked.
Didn't work?
No.
What happened?
Nothing. It was just an ultra trip, like 50 times the mushroom trips that I've had before, and then went back and still had depression. So, and you know what got me off them? A guy with supplements.
Like vitamin C. All right.
What did he use? Magnesium, choline, lithium orotate, not lithium carbonate, lithium orotate, B6, B12, tyrosine, DHA. That was about it. I can't believe it took me 6 years to try and get off these things and do that. And I rang up this guy and he goes, yeah, it'll probably take about 3 months. And then, bang. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So maybe I'd have to go through that to really cement my belief that I'm not taking their drugs and their doctors and their... Doctors, sometimes I think when people get hurt by doctors, then they have to ring an ambulance and go back. It's like when that person escaped from Jeffrey Dahmer and the cops found him and then took him back to Jeffrey Dahmer's house. That's what it's like when you get sick and you have to go to the same place that got you sick. I'm like, oh no.
Any of the doctors who spoke out during the COVID here just got taken off.
Oh, I know, it's so obvious. Obviously you people here are awake souls. You wouldn't be here. But yeah, I mean, it's so obvious to me. It seems ridiculous that anyone would fall for it, you know.
I did a joke about a bat. When it started, I was in Asia, and I said, I don't remember the joke, but it was something ridiculous, like, this is because of the Asians eating a bat. I'm not being racist, but they did start it, and something about. And anyway, it was on Twitter. It ended up on Twitter, and it just got, every time I fucking do anything now, someone just takes this tweet out from years ago, and I wouldn't mind. It was done. It was paid. Someone else did it from my set, so it actually has the same sentence in it twice, which it's not even accurate. But it's one of those things that's used to cancel me. Like, this guy's a racist against Asians. Now, you know what I mean? Like, I don't particularly like Asians. I don't particularly, you know what I mean? I don't particularly dislike. I mean, I don't like, I lived in Thailand. I love Vietnamese. I love Japanese, but like, I didn't like China. You know what I mean? But like, to say I don't like all of Asians, there's a lot of Asians not to like. That's a lot of animosity to carry. You know what I mean? So,
and plus, they're more racist than you because they say Asians as if all Asians are the same.
Should they call me Gaijing when I used to live in Japan? Yes,
as you said, Thailand people are not the same as Vietnamese people. They're not the same as Singaporeans. They're not. And they hate each other, so...
Yeah, well, they do, yeah. Chinese and the Japanese and the Korean.
Yeah, totally, man.
Vietnamese are cool, man. You got to go there.
Oh, totally. My buddy lived there in Korea for years, as he said, You try being a white man in Korea, walk around with one of their women.
Yeah.
They're not happy.
It's understandable.
Yeah.
So, you're a racist then?
Of course. I'm Australian, It's kind of
Australian.
No, there's another thing. That's funny about cancel culture, which is a funny little unprovocative way to say fascism, isn't it? It's cancel culture. No, you're ruining someone's life for an accusation that you have no proof about simply because you've had an erroneous reaction. It's absolute tyranny. Right? And here's the thing, they had hate speech. That's another thing that got me under understanding that these people are up to no good. For starters, hate's an emotion. So what are you going to do, outlaw an emotion? Secondly, hate can be very valid, especially if it helps you protect something you love. And secondly, no one can tell me that I can't hate anybody. Now, it would be my ignorance to go, I hate all black people, right? But that might be my karma. It's my ignorance. Because we've already got laws which if I go and hurt black people or decide to get a group together to try and get other people to come and hurt, but we've already got laws to get me arrested for that. But to have them go, well, you can't hate anybody, that's none of your concern whether or not I fucking hate anybody. Your concern is whether I act outside the law. My hatred might be karmic. It's none of your concern. But people get so caught up now, yes, Steve, maybe that's why they get so easy for them to fall into getting offended or sticking up for these ideas, because I think subconsciously they just think, well, it's a horrible thing to hate. And yeah, it should be made sure that someone tells you that you shouldn't hate. No. Because you may suffer your own consequences for it. If you're filled with that much hatred and it's seething through your soul and you're every night sitting there thinking about black people and how much you hate them, well, you might just give yourself cancer. Is that right? Because so that may be your issue to deal with, but no government or authoritarian body can tell me who I can and cannot hate. They can arrest me if I act upon some of these beliefs I may have and commit crimes, but they can't make out that tell me I can't hate you. I can hate who the fuck I want.
Yes, so sure. I mean,
but I really don't. I'm quite a nice guy. I've never been a racist. There's an easy way not to be a racist. Grow up in Australia in the 70s. That's why I love little woke kids. They go, so racist, really? I could show you some racists. Proper ones from the old days. Right? And proper ignorance. Because I understand the English may have some racism against the Irish against the English, or the Scots against them, or China against them, the Japanese, right? Because you've got some history. So it's not just so much racism. We've got some history here. But when you're a colonist and you've taken someone else's country and now you hate the people whose country you stole and other people that came into it, that's a different kind of ignorance, right? Because there's no grounding here on the hatred. It's just sometimes that kind of racism comes from colonists because to me it's more intense because it's trying to cover up a collective guilt that they know they're in someone else's house. Right, so the fact that they're trying to perpetuate their identity is even stronger because they're trying to convince themselves they're supposed to be here.
Black people in America, not that long ago in the 60s, they weren't allowed to do a lot of things. They weren't allowed certain jobs. I'm not an expert on it, but I'm guessing they weren't allowed to marry white people. They weren't allowed to go to white schools. They weren't allowed. That, in a form, is cancellation culture. You're not allowed to do this. We're stopping you performing. We're stopping you. So nowadays, people are getting cancelled. But I mean, I would say that not allowing black people, because of the colour of their skin, not do something, I would say that is an acting upon hate. That's an action. You're stopping someone being free because of your own inability to accept them as equals.
Yeah.
That's an act of hate, I would think. But now, cancel culture is saying you can't hate.
Maybe an act of fear.
Yeah, but is it not related, the cancel culture that happens now? You can't perform. That guy can't perform here. Or they should be shut down. They shouldn't be allowed to discuss those ideas. But is that not a similar kind of thing?
I got cancelled at a gig in Tasmania from a university. It's a university.
Before you went on?
No, they cancelled me before I even went to the show.
Oh, okay.
Got down to Tasmania. But
it's better than halfway.
I haven't really... Oh, my last... Well, funny thing is I've been cancelled by my agents. I did a sellout. I didn't, because I had to go through PsychMed World for about 3 years, and then I came out of that and I hadn't toured Australia for 3 years, and then I did, and I sold out like 2,000 seats in Sydney, 1,000 in Brisbane, 1,000 in Melbourne, 1,000 in Perth, 1,000 in Adelaide, and then my agents dumped me. So what area have we reached where you sell out an entire tour after 3 years? And why have they dumped me? Because when they used to love me because I was the provocative comedian, but it was way back 10 years ago when you didn't get the backlash. Now they just go, let's get rid of this guy before we have to deal with the backlash. So I got cancelled by my own management before I got cancelled. so they didn't have to. Then I went to the UK in 2020. They shut the world, did the bat thing. I hung around there for a year and a half, and they put my tour on. My manager, I had a woman manager there. She saw my DVD of the material we're doing on the tour. She goes, I love it. It's fantastic. It's world class, Steve. We're going to have a great time. We did the tour. Some of the venues are a bit upset. And next minute, she wasn't returning calls, and
which you'd be used to.
yeah. And then she dumped me as well. So I've been cancelled more by my own agents than by actual woke people, because my agents got rid of me before they got the chance of the woke people to turn up, and they didn't want to deal with it. Because also, it's a great hats off to our enemies for setting these situations up, because it's a very. Well, it's a slick system, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's probably not even that new, but what? Because a lot of these clubs that have cancelled me, they know I'm not a racist or a sexist or a homophobe or whatever they want to call me, because I've worked for them for 20 years with black guys and gay guys and chicks and Muslims, and that's why these young people can't try and convince me that the male-dominated comedy industry was keeping all the minorities out. No, it wasn't, because I was there, and if you were funny, you got work. It was old school. No comedy club is that. If some Muslim guy turns up, or some chick, or some gay black guy, and he's killing every night, they're on the phone. Come to my club. Why? Because they want to sell beer and comedy. They're capitalists. They don't care. They're in England. What, they haven't met an Indian person before? What are you talking about? So you got all these young people that turn up, so racist and dominated by the white man. I'm like, no, you can't convince me, because I was there. No, I wasn't. There's lesbians and rich guys and chicks and guys from council estates and black gay guys, and were you funny? Yeah, it got work, easy. Like the old school. Remember the old days? If you were good at something, then you could have the job. What's funny is they create diversity, don't they? So they go, we can't have 3 white men on, because that would be sort of oppressive, so we've got to be diverse. So there's got to be one woman, and there's got to be one black guy, and there's got to be a Muslim, right? So that's diverse, which is already offensive, because it's making out that apparently 3 white guys are like when you used to cut out that human thing with the paper when you were a kid. They're making out that humans are like that now. So 3 white guys are all just 3 cut out things that somehow don't have different life experiences or anything like this, or different viewpoints or anything. They're just, they're white, so they've gone back to skin colour being the thing that they're focusing on. Right? That's why you can't, anybody that falls for this anymore, to me, is how can... That's why I don't even argue with lefties or woke people out there anymore, because I think they're actually mentally unstable. And I think they're going to fall into a mass psychosis. And I don't want to be there when reality snaps back in their face, because they keep asking me to join non-reality. And I don't think you can join non-reality without eventually you'll probably have a psychotic breakdown, because nature will only let you twist it for so long before it goes... No, you can't just put panties on Steve and call yourself a chick and it's all going to pan out. Because eventually nature will go, nah, mate.
Yeah, well, you'd look good, Steve, and you'd get more work. Steve, you did get cancelled, nearly got cancelled. I booked for you 2 years ago or so. I booked you for a gig. I got a phone call from the manager. I had to walk in. It was an emergency. I had to go in. And he was talking about there was something on the local forum, and you were far right and I was a racist.
Okay.
The guy booking you, and there's some individual was saying you shouldn't be allowed to perform, and the guy was terrified. We'd like 80 tickets. It was a small enough venue, like it was sold out, and he said he was going to talk to the owners, and he was talking to the owners, he's going to come back. And I said to him, okay, well, I'm not cancelling the gig. And he goes, what do you mean? And I go, well, I'm not. I'm like, I've sold the tickets, so there's 80 people who've paid €20, put a booking fee, that's €1,600. So I'm not refunding anyone. I'm going to turn up here and we're going to do the gig. If you don't let us in the premises, we can do it on the road or in the car park or wherever. But you'll have to deal with the refunds. So just pass that on to the owners. And they did the gig and nothing happened. Like just some twat on Twitter, like just 2 or 3 likes. You don't even know if they're a real person. Like there's probably a human being behind it, but there's no name. You can't follow it. They know followers. So I'd say it could have been me. Are you? I don't know, but like I had to have a fucking meeting about it. I had a panic. Like I didn't.
Did we do the gig there?
Yeah, we did the gig. It was great. Yeah, it was great.
So
No, we
Was
put
I
on,
good?
we put on our we put on our KKK uniform.
yeah. Welcome to the show.
So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I think it might have been a personal thing against me. Actually, I think what it was I did an interview on the Irish Inquiry, and I think they actually thought I was someone else because I was just doing comedy, but I think they thought I was the guy running it, and I think they were attacking him, but they just didn't do their research. So anyway, whatever.
They just like to ruin fun, lefties, don't they? They don't want any fun. You know what offends me more about them saying they're offended is I actually don't think a lot of them are offended. I think they're so programmed that they think this is what I'm supposed to be offended by. I'd feel. Plus, I just go. We've all been to shows we don't like or restaurants we didn't like the food, and now with this social media, everyone, I went to this restaurant, it's very horrible. And I was like, why don't you just go there and eat and go, I didn't like that, and then don't go back? Why? I don't know why everyone has to have a point of view now, or like the English comedy scene. To me, this is how I describe it now. It used to be great. It used to be like some guy would go, or a woman would go, I'm upset, the comedian upset me, I'm offended. They go, it's a comedy club, love. It's a comedy club, mate. You know. Okay, now they do that. The owner falls on bended knee, begs for forgiveness, hands their cash back, goes into the dressing room, finds out who said the joke, and then sacks them. It's completely gone. And what's so funny is I used to work with these gay guys, and I can see their posts on social media. So one of them's great. I loved him because I've always loved flamboyant gay men because they're always fun. Right? And my father did the theatre. I like theatrical people. I've always sought out freaks. Goths and metalheads and punks and gay theatre people. They're fun, you know. And then and this gay guy from Manchester, he looks like Demis Roussos, you know, that guy that wore all those big gowns and he's got glitter on his face. And I actually took him to the heavy metal. We used to do Bloodstock, which is a heavy metal festival, and they do comedy there. And they asked him to do it. He was so petrified. I just think, I've got to go to the heavy metal thing. I said, I love you, mate. Right? He bought a black leather kilt. And so he had and his Doc Martens, and he got his Kylie Minogue shirt, and he got half heavy metal, half gay, and we took him there, and he did the gig, and I see him, the festival goes for 3 days, I see him about 2 days into it, suddenly he just prances up with like 6 hairy guys in Motorhead shirts. I'm having the best time! right, running around, see you, Steve, right? Why? Because no one gave a fuck. Is that right? Especially in metal world, they like freaks. Right, and so we're not allowed to call anyone freaks now. They get upset. That's why we used to seek. It used to be good to be an outlier, a freak, wasn't it? And here's the thing. See, we all used to work together, me and him. And I never saw him hassled in the dressing room. I never saw him. He's got gigs. He was funny. He got work. We all worked together. But now people like me and other comedians I know in the UK, but now we're banned. But they still support the LGBT stuff that's banning us, even though before none of us were banned. You weren't getting bashed. You weren't not getting work. It was all working out. But now you've joined the group to go, yeah, we should support this. But now you've cancelled all us. But none of us were cancelled before. So how is this progressive when now all of us were working before and now a bunch of us aren't? To apparently protect you from stuff that wasn't happening to you. This is the clown world we're supposed to inhabit.
But they can't survive without an enemy. You know, they need to say there's hatred out there and we're protecting. They need the victim, the saviour victim thing has to coexist.
Well, I think they need to destroy the Western nations. So the host nations are what? So if you're in Ireland, well, the white Irish people, right? England's been a bit of a mixed bag for decades now. But, you know, Scotland, I mean, that Humza Yousaf guy recently going, oh, no, the judge is white and the people are white. And what, in a country that's 96% white? Because they're white. And people go, well, why shouldn't immigrants be allowed to be in positions of power in white countries? And back in the day when I was a lefty, I wasn't a political lefty, I was just an artist, so you end up being a bit of a lefty when you're an artist, because I didn't care if you were... Because I've never been sexist. That's what I don't understand. These young people trying to tell me, oh, and the women can't do this and they can't... But I just grew up watching movies with women in them, and ABBA, and Kate Bush, and mums who worked, and mums who had all the money off the old man who gave them the money in the 70s, and mums who... They had ads in Australia about men being such wife-beating bastards, and some 10-year-old kid hits his sister, and then the whole ad is like the mother's cowering in the kitchen with the poor daughter as the kid's staring in the back door like this, like looking like Damien from The Omen, right? And they're trying to convince me this is... I don't know a single mother who used to cower under her 10-year-old son. All I knew was mothers who just would have been up, out the back door, grabbed the little fucker, right, and dragged him in for a good hiding. Yeah. Sort it out right now. So I'm like, so I think what they do in the West now, they have to, they would call me racist. They would go like, probably, because they would, I used to think that, because now England, you had, it's run by Indians and Muslims. Watching England colonise itself out of existence. Now these are my opinions. Some people might say, well, why shouldn't people who are from the multicultural, why shouldn't people from an Indian descent run England? I go, okay, well, how long have they been here? Well, my parents have been here since the 40s. I think, well, that's not long enough, because there's English people who've been here since 11 AD. Right? And so your forebears have not contributed to this. Why I wouldn't go to Japan and go, why don't I have the same rights and have the same things of all these Japanese people? Because I have no Japanese lineage or forebears that have done anything throughout history to create where I am now. And whatever your forebears have done for you is, in one sense, your inheritance, which you're then supposed to maintain and better and then hand on to your children, right? So to let outsiders come in and now run it, well, I think, no, you haven't been here long enough. You don't have any right to have this. Like if I went into your house, I've known you long enough now where I would open the fridge. If I only met you yesterday, I won't open your fridge. Why? Because I don't have any history. I think you've got to have some history. Now, I'm not, well, there might, as we were discussing this morning, there was an Indian fella going for something here in Ireland. I said he might be frustrating for fellas who are committed to the country they're now in. Because that's the problem with this. You end up we get called racist and that. And there may be genuine people. Maybe an Indian chap here who loves Ireland and goes, no, I'll do everything for Ireland. I like to feel Irish now, even though I'm a brown guy. But there's a bigger agenda happening, so we can't let you have this at the moment, mate. That's how I look at it, because there's a bigger agenda to fuck up the West. So I think they've got to take down the host people of those places. This is why they... Because I said years ago, how come in England, it started in the mid-2000s, where anyone that had a Union Jack was getting called a racist? Because Iron Maiden, remember Bruce Dickinson, he'd come out and he'd fly the Union Jack. I thought, is he the only guy in England that's allowed to pull a Union Jack out anymore? Not get called a racist.
Yeah, it happens in Ireland with the Irish flag. You're a nationalist, you're a Republican, you're a racist. Where did that come from? I just sing Irish songs and have the odd pint of Guinness.
I know, it's very strange. And and that's done with the idea of diversity, isn't it? Which is funny, because they always go on about inclusion and then they promote diversity. Those two words don't work together. What are you talking about? Huh? But yeah, to me, that's why the multicultural... It's funny, all the multicultural countries are the ones that get called racist. What I find funny about lefties, this is a good idea for a joke actually, is they always use it like going, yeah, it's so racist here in England or something, you know, and they should let all these immigrants in, but the whites here in England are so racist. I think, well, that's not very kind, is it? Asking all these poor people to come to a racist country. Like, what
Come here, back to the hate crime stuff. So the hate crime it's quite a hot topic in Ireland, because they're actively trying to push it in, and the Irish government said if they don't get it in, they'll get it in through a European level. Anyway, if they get it in, what would the effect be on comedy, in your opinion, Steve Hughes?
Oh, just kill it.
How? Hate it.
Because you can't say anything. I mean, we all grew up with go, can't you take it? Now, some jokes are vicious, but you get these people. Here's another thing, you see them going, I saw something the other day going on social media. It said a lot of comedians are saying that the wokeness has ruined comedy. Why don't you write one of your jokes here and explain to us why it's funny? And then in the comments section, you saw these lefties and they're going, oh, they're only upset because they're just old white guys, curmudgeons who are, don't know how to change and all this. And I'm like... See, it's just so they're upset that they can't get their racist, sexist views across in their jokes. See, but they never give me any examples of these comedians. But the problem is, the example of them is all comedians, because you're not allowed to make a joke about anyone they've deemed untouchable. So it's all looked upon as racist or sexist. So you can't argue with them, because it doesn't matter what you do. And yet, I don't know, I can't remember after 25 years of being around comedy scenes, any of the comedians who were going out there doing overtly racist, sexist, homophobic jokes. That was nobody's strategy for their careers. Maybe I'll go out there and show my own hatred and ignorance in front of the audience, and that'll get me work. No, it won't. Plus, even if the joke was vicious, it's still it's still a joke. And I think human beings need jokes to temper tragedy. And eventually it's not like some young woman gets killed in a car accident this afternoon and we all go and make a vicious joke about it that night that has no import. I wouldn't do that. Sometimes they ask me, there's things you don't joke about. Well, there's perspective. Yeah, but not because of morality, just because the timing might be wrong. Is your joke based in, is it vicious? I would never write vicious jokes to have someone be hurt. That's not the point of jokes for me. Well, so I use a bit of that Bill Hicks strategy. Sometimes you use a radical line to snap the program of the audience, so that you know the way they're going to react is visceral, like, because you know how programmed everybody is. Even if they're not woke or anything, we all get a part of the programming, I think, because we're all in the collective. So it starts to weigh on us psychically. It's like when you watch a guy in an audience and then he wants to laugh, but he's looking at his girlfriend to see if he can laugh, or vice versa. yeah.
You see that in comedy clubs a lot.
Yeah, I've seen it with different, and it might not be just always men because women are upset. I've seen it with women who are pissing themselves, and the husband's a bit conservative, and she's looking, should I be up? And I don't understand how there could be people who can think before they do laugh. Because when I hear something funny, I just laugh. My thinking doesn't click in to go, is that acceptable for me to laugh at that? But I've already laughed before then. I might go, that was a bit inappropriate.
Shouldn't have laughed at that one.
Yeah. Here's what the ultimate, why any kind of wokeness, PCness won't work, and they have things like safe space, which is what? Apparently a psychological safe space so that no one's upset, right? So what they're ultimately saying is, and they want to get rid of all the sexists and all the racists and all the homophobes and everyone, right, to create a utopia, right? That's their strategy. If we can just get rid of all these horrible people, right, and do the stuff, then maybe there'll be a utopia. So in one sense, they're basically saying that they're trying to protect everyone from pain. So they're basically saying they'd like a world without pain.
Without suffering.
Which, again, you can't. We go back to Buddhism, dualism. What? Well, you can't. The only way you can even have safety is if danger exists. Otherwise, safety is a moot point. If there's no danger, you don't have safety, because safety is the antithesis of danger, isn't it? Right. So to have safety, you have to have danger. Otherwise, you have what? Just nothing. And so there's no way that they can ever succeed in what they apparently want. Why? Because they're trying to have a non-reality manifest, which is what? You can live without pain. Well, you can't. Even a bodybuilder will tell you, no pain, no gain. That's what they like, don't they? Right. It's all about pain. What would any kind of Jungian journey or shadow work be? Facing pain, acclimatising to pain. Why do kickboxers kick that tree with this bit of their leg for hours on end? Why? To acclimatise to the pain. Right? But these people are almost like, well, there shouldn't be any pain, so you shouldn't. And how could I do a comedy gig and then make sure that I don't say anything that upsets anyone in the crowd when I don't even know the crowd? And there's 400 of them there, and they've got subjective worlds and histories, and I don't know if any of them have been raped or sexually abused or beaten by husbands or wives, or have had their mother died when they were 6, or they've got... I don't know this, so it would always be so arrogant of me to think, well, I'll temper the material to make sure that none of them get upset. Who am I to make such a judgment call, right? But as we're getting back to, they cater to majorities, which is why they want to destroy, they have things... Because I was in England on tour, I went to the bathroom of this service station. They'd redone the bathroom. There's a hand dryer on the wall, but there's only one, but it's made for people in wheelchairs. Well, why have you made for the one in wheelchairs? And people think, well, because it's hard. Yeah, but 99.9% of people in England aren't in wheelchairs. People, I think they invert everybody's compassion. And I think, Steve, how can you say that? Because it's a person in a wheelchair, because it goes through the filter of their life, and they wouldn't want to be in a wheelchair, because it would hinder your life, right? But so, when I was into heavy metal, you're a minority. So you watch a 4-hour rock show in the 80s or the 90s, or it goes for 6 hours a night, and you get 4 heavy metal songs. Why? Because you're a minority. You're not catered to the same way that the majority is catered to. So to continually focus on minorities, how do you move forward? Like in Australia now, you're on the motorway, right? They've got the digital speed signs now, so they can change them, can't they, right? So you can change the speed. So you're on the motorway, it's 120, then it goes down to 80, then it goes down to 60, right? And then why? Because one guy's broken down on the side of the motorway. Now, because of health and safety regulations, what we're going to do is do what? Well, we're going to slow down an entire city in case this one who's a minority, not because he's black or gay, he's a minority of what's going on here, but we're all going to slow down now just in case someone hits him, right? And then people go, yeah, Steve, but what's wrong with that? Because, what if someone hits him, right? But you can't live your life by what ifs, because you wouldn't leave the house. You get up in the morning, or what if I tripped over the bathroom mat and banged my head on the bath? Or what if I go out in a rock fall? So you won't go anywhere. So that's how I look at it. Everything's a minority, and safety and minorities.
Cashless society. Australia did something with the cashless society thing. You talked about this, Joe, I don't know, 15 years ago or something. You talked about the danger of cashless society.
It was on my second CD, Cashless Society.
Yeah, and now it's here. It's a thing in Australia, is it? They brought it in, is that right?
No, they haven't done it yet.
Okay, all right.
But they told everybody, when I was doing the Cashless Society, it's on my second CD, it came out in 2008. I had Cashless Society jokes on there. But they told everyone, because in England at the time, they'd gotten these big stickers in train stations of like big pounds and pence and big stickers, and they'd put them on the floors of like King's Cross train station and Paddington, and they just had pounds and pence are going down the drain. And it would go all the way to the into the restrooms, right, and all the stations. And so here's the funny: they told you, but no one noticed. It's almost like, is that a program? Is that a thing? Just to give you a little program now, get used to it. It's like what I think. These are my theories. I have no proof of these. But the smoking, they brought out the smoke, and then now you can't buy cigarettes just here at the supermarket. You have to go over to that one, right? And it's behind a cupboard, right? And so what we've separated you from the rest of the people because you've got a dirty habit. Right, so you've got to go over there. I think this is predictive pre-programming of the vaccination thing, so they can get in people's heads that the people who don't look after their health get pointed over there. And now if you don't take this and you don't look after your health, and we've already programmed you, the people that don't look after their health have to go over there, see, where the dirty section is, behind the dirty wall, where the pictures that the rotting feet are. So I think it's been that's why I didn't fall for any of this nonsense.
Yeah, well, I think one of the big human fears is being sort of isolated, being
totally
away from the tribe. So that's kind of the move there. If you don't do what you're told, you'll be out of the tribe. But I think a lot of people here would already have sort of felt that in their own way and own experience, so that weapon doesn't work on them. But it seems to really, I see it a lot, like with friends, family, people I know for a long time, the idea of being that one that everyone's going, geez, you shouldn't be like that. I think it's particularly powerful in Ireland, actually. I think it's a powerful human thing, isn't it? Especially for that's been brought up before. If you get kicked out of the tribe in the old days, it wasn't just you moved into your mate's house. You're dead, basically. Yeah. You're dead. You're out of the tribe means you're dead. So it's a death. Because where are you going to go? You're on your own. You're going to fight the lions. Without everyone, you can't survive. So, so behave. Just do what you're fucking told.
That's the name of the next show Aidan suggested.
Just do what you're told.
Just do what you're told, Stephen.
Globalists, do you think they're going to win the battle for humanity?
I don't think they can, because I think they want to go into such a fake world. There's a great quote from Frank Zappa saying, he said, if you want to take on the universe, I'd back the universe. And I don't think they'll be able to. They seem to be very anti-nature and anti-life, so I don't know if they'll pull it off. I don't. But I think they'll make it damn ugly. They seem to like ugliness, don't they?
Yeah, they do seem to be against life. They're always going on, okay, like the environment, green, cycle lanes, we have to do this. But I don't see them planting any oak trees. I don't see them going, okay, guys, we're gonna give we're gonna turn our jets, we're gonna recycle them, and we're just gonna live on farms from now on with all the trillionaires. And anyway, you can have all our money and grow some, biodynamic carrots.
The same as they want you to be a vegetarian, vegans. That's why I've gone full meat eat. Because everything they lied to us about. You don't want saturated fat and cholesterol. Yes, you do. It's exactly what your brain's made of: saturated fat and cholesterol. Eat grains and red meat rots in your stomach. No, it doesn't. Because it doesn't. Where's it go? It doesn't sit there for 10 years, all this bullshit they came up with, and then they teach these young kids, because if you're a young kid, you don't want to see a poor animal hurt, but it's a cycle of life and death. I've read some great quotes under the Carnivore Channel YouTubes. One woman wrote, "I've been trying to get my husband to eat vegetables for years, but he won't eat them. He says he doesn't have to because the cow's already done it for him." There was another great quote that said, "Human beings, the only people smart enough to invent their own food and dumb enough to eat it." Because really, I listened to an avocado farmer on Joe Rogan, and he's talking, because he wasn't a vegan, but he goes, "These vegans love me because they love avocados." He goes, "But they have no idea how many animals I kill to grow 16,000 hectares of avocados. I kill about 40,000 badgers, about 20,000 squirrels. Then of course, if I have to use pesticides, insects eat the pesticides and they die. Then the birds eat the insects, and the birds get sick because they eat the insects. And then snakes eat the birds that are getting sick from eating the insects." And he goes, "Well, if it's just a cow sitting out there eating grass and then taking a shit, and that cow feeds 2 blokes for a year. And all it did was shit back into the thing, and then the insects got the shit and flew it across." So you see, nature's already got this stuff worked out. Broccoli and that's not even real vegetables. We invented them.
To prevent climate change, for the environment, what we've decided to do in Ireland, I say we, I mean our emperors, our leaders, they are going to kill 200,000 cows.
I know.
You heard that?
Yeah. It's anti-life.
Yeah. It's all anti-life. That should be the name of your next show, Anti-Life.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable. And what we're all going to eat, Linda McCartney sausages and...
I mentioned you when I interviewed Thomas Sheridan recently. I said, I might have misquoted you. You can correct me if I have. I told him that you said to me once on a bus, probably in Asia, you said they're getting rid of Jesus, they're getting rid of religion. They're taking it out. And I saw that attack, at least in Ireland. There was a real attack on Christianity. But you talked about the void. Yeah, you can take it out, but what's left? What are you going to replace it with? And that's when you started exploring that idea.
It's almost like pulling what nature abhors, a vacuum, really, isn't it? So,
yeah.
What are you going to do? Just pull a great psychic foundation out from underneath a bunch of people in history, and then, we'll just get rid of that. Well, what sucks into that void? Everything's got to be filled, doesn't it? Something or other. So, don't think you can just go, well, we'll just dump it all tomorrow. It takes time. Everything takes time.
The hate speech laws are there to silence people, but particularly for comedians, because the power of satire.
If God made the planet, then he went, well, there's got to be a lot of tears there, so you better give him some laughter. Right, balance it out. And I think that is anti-life, to go what? To take away a great remedy like laughing, which can anaesthetise, of course there's the initial part of any kind of trauma or tragedy where you go through the obviously pain and the but eventually, I was just reading the Rush, that Canadian band Rush, and their drummer went through that big, his daughter got killed in an accident when she was like 19, and then his wife died 8 months later. So he had this whole, and they're just going through all that trauma. It took him like 5 years, just getting his shit back together. But I love the bit where he goes, finally, as a band start to come back together, because they're a great band, they look after their band members and they're good mates. He goes, but then as we started working, he finally can come back and work. He goes, and then the humour turned up, which was this great balm, which of all this, because we're all so hurting and everyone's a bit uncomfortable. His wife's dead, his daughter's dead. He's got to try and play drums again. Can we make a record? We're serious, but we're fun guys. He goes, but once. And then I realised, see, that was it right there. Now we can start to use the jokes about the heavy situation to ease some of the pain away from our mate, and get it back to normal with the joking about it, because it's a reality anyway, isn't it? If you go through tragedy, it is a reality. It's no use holding on to the tragedy of the reality forever. Eventually, it can be just balmed with fucking jokes. And what that gentleman said there, exactly, it makes it. If a guy said that to me after the gig the other night, he goes, I like this comedy show. He goes, because it knocks your consciousness that way. That's why sometimes you like it with the Bill Hicks. You use a radical line to get their attention, to knock the consciousness. Then you use the punchline and sometimes self-deprecation works as well. You include yourself into the scenario. Why? We're all in this together. I'm not up here judging and doing. I've got my own flaws and I mock them and I mock this and we'll mock you and what? Because And we all grew up with, can't you take a joke, mate? And it's very valid, and it's hard to sometimes, if you're a young kid and maybe you're getting picked on and they're pretending it's a joke, it's a different scenario. But exactly, you've got to. It's a dangerous, because why would they target comedy otherwise? You know, I mean, if you want a safe space, if you want to be gay or somebody, come into a dressing room with comedians. Musos, artists, this is the safest place you can hang around, right? They already like freaks and outliers. But now, here's what I think they take away from people too, is now that, because they had this idea of inclusion, right? But I liked, when you were a punk, when I knew punks and they had things, they walked around like this with studs and fuck the system and mohawks to be discriminated against. But now they've set it up so that these young kids walk around with their blue hair and their mohawks and they go, well, if I get a job, if I dress like this, why can't I get a job and be included? No, because you dress like that to not be included. Right, right, and people don't understand that. So say that you're a punk or a goth, and you go for a job at the garden centre. They take away now the power of the guy at the garden centre who goes, well, I can't hire you because you look like a vampire, right? And now they could go, well, that's discrimination. Everyone should be accepted. You should be able to express themselves as individuals and be accepted within the system, not knowing you took away the power of the guy who runs a garden centre to go, you can't work at my garden centre when you look like Dracula. But that's discrimination. Yeah. Because mainly I get old women in here and middle-aged couples and young couples buying pot plants and fucking horse manure. I don't need Christopher Lee in the fucking corner. Right? So, secondly, I don't want my goths working at the fucking garden centre. If you're going to be a goth, become a goth. Be a proper outlier. Stay out there. That's why you should never let mainstream people have outlier ideas. Now they've all got neck tattoos. Why? Because you let the mainstream get, this is fashionable. And I saw it the other day. I was waiting how long until the YouTube channel turns up the, I regret my decision about tattoos. Of course you do. You tattooed your face. What? Don't let mainstream people have outsider ideas. They all follow the herd. Yeah, maybe I should tattoo my face. And I think all neck tattoos should just say regret or dickhead, right? Right. The big thing now is to get, I know I wear a scarf, but people get their neck tattooed now, like black. Because the thing is just black, but I'm sitting there going, but your neck helps your head separate from your body, right? Right. Now you're just like a floating fucking head walking around. And here's it, because I watched a young channel, it was a young girl, she's a very, very pretty young girl, she had arm tattoos, but I could tell, she seemed like a nice girl, but I could tell that the wokeness was in it, just the way that, and she's running, and then, because of course there's people on there now going, yeah, I do kind of regret this, and there was people on there with, you know, this and that, and neck stuff going up here, and young girls who had these big things that go all over here, and like, yeah, I'm not 23 anymore, I don't know if I... Right. But the thing is, I could tell by the way this young girl was going, and this, because some girl had a whole face tattooed, right? Looked like, yeah, it was just, well, my boyfriend wanted me to do it, and see, this is the problem when mainstream people have a fucking voice, because they moan all the time, you know. Well, see, the women's magazines put these pictures of these women in there, now there's a certain way that we're all supposed to look. Well, don't listen to them! That's why I always like being with metalheads and punks and that. Well, don't listen to them. Just fucking get on with your fucking life, right? Don't blame them. Don't let them have tattoos. There was a wonderful book, if you ever get to read it, by a guy called Theodore Dalrymple, which is a pseudonym. It's this English guy. He was a doctor, psychiatrist. He worked in prisons and poor areas, and he used to write monologues. It's a great book called Life at the Bottom. And it's quite old, and he discusses tattoos in there, which is brilliant how they were brought in, because he goes, it's a very, and it was brilliant, this book was given to me by this Jewish comedian. And it's great, he wrote in the front, to Steve, from your fellow anti-Semite, Raoul. There was a great, he discussed multiculturalism, tattoos, the bringing of tattoos, which is lower culture, prison culture, working class culture, into the mainstream, he goes, a very popular tattoo in English prisons is made in Britain, right, around the nipple of the inmate. He goes, unfortunately, it's about the only thing that is made in Britain anymore. He also had this great line. He wrote really well. I love people that write really well. He goes, He goes, multiculturalism. Sure, many people find a very positive aspect to it these days. You know, Monday they can eat Thai, Tuesday they can eat Malaysian, Wednesday they can eat, Italian. And he goes, and of course, I understand. Anybody who has suffered the rigours of English cooking may enjoy this, but there's more at hand.
Is it possible that the hate speech laws and cancel culture could make comedy even better because the comedian or the satirist would have to raise their game?
That's what I thought.
Get around them, get beyond them.
I did think about strategies. I thought of ways, how can I do this to raise the game, but because I started to realise, because sometimes it's no use me throwing, like if the big weight of a media and all this is going to come at me and all these woke people, right? How can I? It's no use me sitting there with just pebbles if they come at you. So if they want to act like in a war, then you have to have strategies. So I started to realise I get so triggered by words that sometimes you can just change the word that they're all used to. So you don't go feminists, you go women's march. Right. So you get the same thing, but because the word feminist is it's like Pavlovian dogs in our audiences sometimes. You just wave the word up but yeah, I think it makes it go underground and get better, doesn't it? Yeah, totally. Like music. Music's always better when it starts and it's underground, and then it gets popular, and then because it gets so popular, another segment of it starts under here again, and that's yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree with you.
Steve Hughes, what is a woman?
There's one. There's two there. There's one. That's why imagine being in £70,000 debt because you did gender studies. I thought I could teach you that in 5 seconds. See Janet and Claire there? Yeah, they're women. Bob, Barry, yeah, blokes. 70 grand, thanks. It is funny, madam, what you said there. There was a thing the other day. Australian court goes to session to work out what a woman is. I thought, what planet am I?
Why did I come back in this reality?
I know that's the thing is, well, your soul chose to be here at this time. I think, I'd like to have a fucking word with my soul. what
my non-binary soul, which is true.
What were you thinking?
EVs, electric vehicles.
Oh, electric vehicles. Well, Steve has a Tesla. I presume. No.
I fucking don't. It just seems ludicrous to me. And if they think I'm getting in a driverless car, they can go and fuck themselves. Well, just what? How? I don't. One, I'm from Australia, so how are you going to drive from Sydney to Perth in an electric vehicle? It's 4.5 days.
How many times did you have to stop?
Oh, it depends how many times. It depends if you can find somewhere to stop. My English mate went out there. He went out the outback on motorbikes. This guy, he goes, he married this Aussie chick, and he was living in Perth, and they broke up. And he thought, before I go back, I'm going to do what I wanted to do. He goes, it's kind of scary. It is kind of scary going out in that desert. It's not like getting lost in Ireland. You just wander off to the next town, right? So he's out there on this motorbike. And he broke down. He ran out of, something happened. He sat on the side of this highway for 3.5 days, waiting for some truck guy to come out and find him. He goes, I can't work out. I've got no map. I can't work out where I've got enough fuel. I've got some fuel on the side of the bike, and I've got some of the petrol, but I know I'm going to need more. And he goes, I'm sitting in this pub and I'm trying to work out. He goes, this bloke walks in like Aussie as fuck, right? This is way out back, right? He sits down. He just nods at the chick. She just brings him a spoon like this. He turns. He goes, you got a problem or something, mate? I've got this map here. I'm trying to get to here. I've only got this much fuel and stuff. And the guy's just listening to that. He goes, he just sculls this beer. He nods to this chick. She brings him another beer. And he goes, and you want to get to where? He goes, there. And he goes, yeah, you're going to die, mate. Yeah, so I don't want an electric vehicle. No. I'm still on to the George Carlin bit about saving the planet. I always thought that. There's two things where people used to go, I want to change the world. I used to think, to what? You never specified that bit. You just said you wanted to change it. Well, a nuclear war would change it. People go, I want to change my life. Well, brain cancer, that'll change your life. Right? It's not always positive when things, right? When things change, right? And the other one was when George Carlin did that thing, we're going to save the planet. Fuck you, arrogant motherfucker. Remember that joke he did about plastic? Remember that one? Because maybe he goes. The world's been through what tectonic shifts and this and meteor strikes and so forth and whatnot, and oceans shift and continents break in half and this goes on and volcanoes erupt and these snowstorms and ice ages come, right? And you think a couple of aluminium cans and some fucking plastic is gonna fuck this place? Right. He goes. The planet's not going anywhere. We are. Right, and then he's just gone. He goes. Maybe the Earth only made humans because it wanted plastic. Because once it's got all the plastic, I don't need them anymore. Then I'll just incorporate the plastic into itself.
I think people are really invested in this this climate thing.
Yeah,
I know, like they're really buying into it. Like, it's like some comics that I consider pretty smart. You know, I was just mocking it casually, and they were like, "What? You don't believe in climate change? You don't believe in global warming?" I was like,
yeah, I know.
Really?
I know it's weird.
But they were like, "Yeah." They just thought I was like insane. Like I was amazed the way they were looking at me. I was like, he's looking at me like that.
Well, they're comedians. They all stay in hotels. They should realise that they used to have cups in hotels made of porcelain or china or whatever they make them of, and they had teaspoons made of steel, which lasted a million years. And now you're in a hotel and you've got a paper cup with a wooden stirrer, with a green hotel. But where's what I want to know more than that is where have all the cups gone? Well, I've been in millions of hotels for 40 years. There was teaspoons everywhere. Where are they now? It's a giant warehouse.
They just turn them into Teslas.
Yeah, they turn them into electric cars.
Steve Hughes.
Thank you.